If you watch video number 91, you'll know that this was my first attempt at an original handmade Druzy Frog Mould. It did work, but it wasn't right. And if you haven't seen that yet, I'll link it in the card above, because this is exactly where all this started. The gold frog was the one I created with homemade crystals, and then this is the frog that I cast from that handmade mould. Now this had plenty of sparkle, but it lost the frog. By covering the entire back in crystals, I've flattened the definition, the legs don't look quite right, the silhouette has become bulky, and the back looked all out of shape. Now, at the time the idea was solid, handmade Druzy Frog Mould, but execution on the other hand wasn't quite there. That being said, in the original video I did learn quite a lot. So taking what I'd learned from the first video, I'm applying it to this second one to finally try to create a perfect Druzy backed frog mould. Hi, I'm Tony and welcome to Georgiesgorgeousgifts in collaboration with the Froggy Friday crew. So to create the blank for this frog, I'm using a 4-hour demold clear polyurethane. Polyurethane is known for its really fast curing, but this is stuff that I bought from MB Fiberglass, but it turned out to be a 4-hour cure instead, so you have a lot more work time, which in all fairness was probably my saving grace in this video. I'm measuring this properly on a scale because with something this detailed, guessing isn't going to be good enough. If the base isn't right, that sparkle isn't going to matter no matter what I do. The reason you can see me pouring this way out of the bottle is because I couldn't get the lids off for love nor money, so I had to use a knife to slice through the bottle itself. So I'm mixing up part A and part B, figuring that now I've done this to the bottle, I'm going to have to use the whole lot anyway. For this second time round, my plan is to only create the Druzy effect down the centre of this frog's back, not all over. That way I'm hoping that at least it's going to keep the definition of the frog shape. One of the issues I found was the curve on the frog's back. With it having that natural arch, it meant I couldn't control the height of the Druzy. So while I was mixing up the polyurethane, I thought, why not try and create a proper cavity, something flat that I can put the crystals on. I have loads of these spare silicone inlays that I've been trying out, so I'm using one of them to cut in the shape of the frog's back, just in between the legs and to his neck. I'm not really too bothered about having completely straight edges at this point because we can always touch that up later on. At this point I'm just concentrating on the shape. This inlay is about 1 to 2 millimeters thick, and because I was just winging it on the spot, I'm trying to think of a way to stick this inlay down to the back of the frog. So I decided to use UV resin to secure it in place, but only temporarily. In order to keep that curve from the frog's back, I did have to hold this down in place while it was curing. My hope is, by using the UV resin, that it's going to be strong enough to hold the insert, but still easily to peel away after it's fully cured. And because this is quite an opaque colour, I'm using my UV light on the top and on the bottom, just to make sure that it's fully secured. I have used this method with UV resin to stick inlays down to moulds in the past, and it's worked quite well, so fingers crossed this is going to work. So I'm pouring the polyurethane on top of the silicone inlay. And as you can see, even though this polyurethane has been sat a good 20-25 minutes at this point, it's still thin enough to be able to pour into this frog mould. I'm also being careful when I pour that I try to get every detail as perfect as possible, because this is going to be our original blank. And unfortunately, all the mistakes you make on the blank show up on the mould. So once it was fully cured, I demoulded the frog. Even though I've demoulded over 50 of these frogs, I still struggle and still hold my breath every time I demould it because of those little fingers and toes. At this point, everything looked great. Removing the silicone inlay was no hassle, as there was only a really thin layer of UV resin to pick off. But once the silicone inlay was removed, and I looked at the back, the cavity still wasn't deep enough. There's still that natural arch there. And even though this is exactly what I had in mind, the cavity still wasn't deep enough. And I needed to make that inlay a little bit thicker. So I had a choice to make at this point. I could either just roll with it and see how it turned out, or I could do a second frog and try and do this properly. And if nothing else, I'm known for my persistence. I wasn't giving up quite yet, So I did a second frog. The problem was that I didn't have a thick enough silicone inlay to be able to give me the cavity that I needed. So this time I'm using 2 pieces of silicone, one on top of the other. This is going to remove the arch completely and give me the depth that I actually wanted. As in the first one, I stuck the first layer down with the UV resin. Then it come to having the second layer, which was a bit more difficult to stick down. And because this frog was poured in 2 leftover resin parts, I was convinced that the resin had gone between the 2 layers of silicone. So it was time to see whether my plan had worked. I could see straight away that there had been some seepage between the 2, but how much I don't know. So after grabbing just a pair of pliers, I'm removing the first silicone insert. But right, that's not ideal. The resin seeped between the 2 silicone inserts, and now part of it is actually encased inside this frog. How deep? I don't know. So after managing to use these pliers to actually reach that second inlay, it didn't seem that deep. So once again, I was left with 2 options. Start for the 3rd time or try and get this inlay out. After attempting to remove it manually, it wasn't budging. So I thought my best way forward was to bring out the big guns, my Dremel. So on goes my breathing apparatus and my glasses. These really are a must when sanding resin. And I'm using the sanding wheel on my Dremel to carefully remove just enough of the resin to free the insert. For this I started off with a lighter grit, moving down to a rougher grit when I knew how deep I needed to go. All that was left was this flaky bits of resin. Now because I'd been at this for over an hour, you should have heard the scream that come out of my mouth when I finally managed to get this inlay out, and it had worked. I was literally squealing with excitement. The look I had off my daughter was just like, here she goes again. Mum thinks she's done a thing again. Now the inlay's finally out, it's time to sort them edges out and tidy it up a bit. As you can see, there's still some excess resin where it had encased in the silicone, so I'm trying to remove that carefully with a pair of round nose pliers. At this point the depth is perfect, so I don't want to change that in any way. This frog is really starting to come together, but there's still a tiny bit of resin to remove around the edges. I needed to get both sides of this frog the same depth, so I'm switching to a hand sander, just so that I can get right into that cavity and remove what's left of that edging. Once I'd sanded it enough, this piece easily come off with my pliers. So now all the excess resin is removed, it's time to refine these edges. This would have been quite difficult to do with the Dremel because the Dremel removes large amounts of material. Sanding just refines it properly. And now that the base is completely flat, I'm just removing the last little bits behind the frog's eyes, because if the foundation isn't right, the crystals are not going to sit the way I want them to. And although it was a lot of hard work, this piece, I can feel it is going to be so worth it. You can see how much flatter and deeper this one is. The arch has gone completely and the base is controlled. That's what I was aiming for. And after doing a fair bit more clean up off camera, and you can clearly see the difference between the two. The first attempt and then the second. Not having that arch is going to give me that base that I need to be able to layer my crystals exactly the way I want them. And the crystals that I'm going to be using for this one, like I did in the first video, are crystals that I made myself. Only this time, instead of using UV resin to stick them down, I'm going to be using epoxy. Now there is a reason for this, which I found out in the first video. Because I hadn't allowed the UV to dry for at least 2 weeks, I ended up with silicone curing inhibition. Even though the silicone was fully cured, it still had that little bit of tackiness to it. Something I didn't have a clue about. And apparently this is caused by a reaction between the not quite cured UV resin and the silicone. Once I'd made sure that my frog was completely level and that we weren't going to have any resin spilling out of the back, I mixed up 20 ml of resin and I'm pouring just enough to create a base layer. This first layer isn't about height, it's about structure. At this point, I just want the even coverage across the base before I start building upwards. I'm just putting in enough of the smaller crystals so that I'm pretty much level with that outer edge. Once this layer was cured, I'm tipping this upside down and allowing gravity to do some quality control on my behalf. Now this is why that first layer matters. Anything that isn't properly embedded is just going to fall straight off. And it's much better to find that out now rather than waiting till after moulding. Now that the base is secure, I can start building height. This is really where the shape is going to take place. As I said, I don't want it flat, I want a gradual rise, a bit like a natural crown round the top of his eyes, higher at the front and tapering towards the back. It's here that you make the difference between piling the crystals on or designing a nice druzy spine. So I'm just drizzling a little bit of resin onto the areas that need that extra height, and then using those larger crystals just to give it that shape. I did off camera give this another couple of layers just to ensure that all them crystals are secured in place. Now all my layers are fully cured and the crystals are secure, so it's now time to commit this to silicone. But you can see there's lots of depth in this druzy, although the sparkle has dulled slightly with curing. Now that the frog is fully cured, I need to build the outer casing to pour my silicone. Normally I'd use my proper square mould housing, but I've realised that I waste an awful lot of silicone doing that. This frog is only 10 centimetres long and 13 centimetres at its widest point, so using the proper mould housing just leaves lots of empty space. So instead I'm making a tighter casing from cardboard. The idea is to follow the shape more closely and keep everything compact. So I'm making sure that I'm taping and sealing all the edges with this packaging tape so it's strong and leak proof. Now this might look like a bit of a bodge job, but it really doesn't need to look pretty, it just needs to hold its shape and not leak. By using this smaller cardboard box, I'm hoping to reduce the amount of silicone I'm using by nearly half. Now that the structure is finally finished, it's time to make sure that this box is completely sealed. I've also cut a piece of acetate sheeting to place on the bottom of this cardboard. And then I've got my hot glue gun and I'm running around the base to seal every edge. If there's a gap, this glue is going to find it. As I've found out in previous projects, silicone loves to escape. So now's the time to mix up and pour the silicone. For this mould I'm using a 15A silicone rather than something firmer like a 40A. The lower shore hardness means the silicone stays much more flexible once cured, which is really important for a shape like this with undercuts and fine detail. I've added a small amount of pink mica powder purely so I can see the silicone as it flows and make sure I'm getting good coverage all around the details. I didn't even know there was such a thing as shore hardness until a few months ago, but that's something to really consider when you're choosing your silicone for your mould you're creating. While the 40A is great for simple flat moulds, it can make demoulding harder and increase the risk of tearing or stressing the mould over time, especially when you're casting something like this with legs and curves. Because of the size of this mould, I did need to mix up 2 separate batches, but altogether I ended up using just over 600ml of silicone. That's saving me over half of what I used last time, which is massive when it comes to cost. So once the silicone had fully cured, it was time to remove the outer casing. The housing did its job, no leaks, no bowing, and best of all, there was no unnecessary waste of the silicone. No matter how well you secure the actual blank, it's always going to end up with this excess silicone around the edges. So the tool I'm using for that is a cuticle cutter. This makes this job so much easier. But now it's time for the real test to see whether after all that hard work this has paid off and it's worked. This wasn't the easiest to demould because of the druzy back. This would have been way harder with a harder shore silicone. And I was quite excited at this point. So a good sign is that the original blank is still intact. But that spine detail has come out really well. The depth is really controlled and the frog's definition is still there. There are just a few tiny crystals that I needed to remove, but other than that, it's looking really good. So I'm just giving it a final check over and trimming any of the small excess round the edges. The better the master, the better every cast comes out of it. Although I was itching to pour this mould, I did have to leave it in room temperature for 24 hours before I could pour. Now this is the bit that I'm most excited about because this has honestly been weeks in the making. So I'm dusting the cavity with violet blue interference powder. Interference powder shifts depending on the light, so once this is backed with a darker colour, that should really glow the inside of the spine. So after using a soft brush to dust off any of the excess powder, I've mixed up my resin and I'm adding just a small clear layer over the top, just enough to lock that powder into those textured areas without losing the definition again. I want this to be at a gel stage before I pour the last layer. And while we're waiting for that to gel up, I thought I'd show you these little extras that I poured from what was left of the silicone using this little pocket hug mould. How cute are these? Now that the clear layer has reached gel stage, I can back it with a darker base. The reason I'm doing this is contrast. Interference powders only really come alive when they sit against something dark. If I'd have left this fully clear, the shift would have only been really subtle, but backed with this deep navy, I'm hoping the spine is going to shine. I'm trying to pour gently so I don't disturb that gel layer underneath. The first layer locked in the texture and this layer is going to create the depth. Now usually people go for black behind an interference powder, but I'm using a dark metallic blue instead of a pure black so that it keeps some of the richness rather than making it look a bit flat, which is what can happen sometimes when you add black under interference powder. I then put this back in my resiner's curing machine to fully cure. Because this is a handmade mould, I have got it on a lower temperature than I would usually use. This seems like a brilliant time to say that this video was in collaboration with the Froggy Friday crew, currently hosted by these fabulous artists. The full playlist will be at the end and also in the description below, where you can find a whole host of discount codes and other information on this video. And if you enjoy seeing projects evolve instead of just the perfect first attempts, this is the perfect channel for you, so make sure you're subscribed. So this is the moment of truth and time to see the end result and whether it's what I expected. So I'm being really careful not to damage this while taking it out of the mould. And that's the difference. I'm absolutely loving it. The spine is really defined, the depth is controlled, and the frog hasn't lost its shape like in the first one. And that interference powder shift is exactly why I backed it with this dark colour. Same sparkle, better structure. This is what I was aiming for the first time round. So let's compare the two. This is the original. It worked, but I think I just went a little bit too heavy with those crystals and it lost all its definition. This new one, on the other hand, feels a lot more balanced. It's still got that nice druzy look, it's just not overpowering the whole piece. And of course, it wouldn't be one of my videos if something didn't go slightly wrong along the way. The silicone decided to trap itself inside the frog because, well, why not? But that seems to be a running theme in my work. Fix it, refine it, and I've ended up with something better. So I'm actually really pleased that I give this a second shot. Let me know in the comments if you've ever struggled making a handmade mould, or you've had a project go completely off plan halfway through. So all that's left is for me to leave you with some glamour photos. I've been Tony from Georgiesgorgeousgifts. Stay safe, happy crafting, and bye for now.
A splash of color, a canvas deep. Hopping greens, blues, yellows collide. Art's alive, it's a wild ride. The Froggy Friday, let's create. Jump on in, don't hesitate. Georgie's gorgeous gifts on display. Run by Tony, lighting the